When it comes to the youngest child of Naruto, Uzumaki, she's been a character that's had a bit of a troubled past when you go back to as far back as fall 2014, when her character was first being introduced in chapter 700. Half the fandom was saying, hey, it's a waste that Naruto's daughter is not a shinobi, and how come she doesn't have a Byakugan? And then the other half, such as myself, we were saying, hey, Naruto brought peace to the shinobi world and the universe, no need for her to be a shinobi. Well, when we fast forward to 2024, we have Himawari being confirmed to have Bijuu Chakra, and so now that everyone's had time to digest the plot twist at the end of the last chapter, I wanted to make a video going over the signs that Himawari had Kurama's chakra and dive deeper into the significance of those signs in today's newest Naruto Explained video. Now, just to be clear, if you are expecting a whole video on how is Kurama still alive, I've already discussed that in another video that I'll leave linked in the end credits, which I strongly recommend watching that video. And contrary to the belief of a few idiots, it's possible for me to have said in the past that I believe burial mode was different and that it would be for keeps, and then still be able to explain to you the in-universe mechanics of how Kurama was revived and break down the Fox mythology that tied into it, and still say that that gave me some hesitation to boldly proclaim Kurama was never coming back. So moving on though, what were the signs that Himawari had Bijuu Chakra, or rather, were there any signs there at all that she had Bijuu Chakra, or was this some random chakra mumbo jumbo that happened in the story and we have to do what fiction requires us to do, which is suspend disbelief and just accept it? Well, thankfully, I don't believe that the latter is the case here. Looking back at the story, there are definitely signs that Himawari had some special power inside of her, and so let's hop into that time machine and let's go back into the narrative. Let's dig through all the clues, because the signs aren't so much as directly in your face that there's a monster power in Himawari, so much as there were quite a few symbolic gestures in the story that pointed towards Himawari having a much bigger role in the future, and that she would be the one who had Kurama's chakra and not Boruto, like Kishimoto's original draft design for Boruto's Team 7 included QB Chakra Mode Boruto 8 years ago. So our first sign that something was different about Himawari, it came all the way back in the special one-shot manga that Naruto series creator Masashi Kishimoto published as an additional promotion for the Boruto movie that was coming up on physical release, which is the oh so iconic scene where Himawari awakened her Byakugan. In this scene, we have Naruto running late to his Hokage ceremony on top of the Hokage rooftop, the customary ceremony that officially makes one the Hokage. Think of it like how in our own world, you don't become the US president until you have the inauguration at noon on January 20th, following the November election. But up until that point, you have the title of president-elect and you get briefings despite not having the official authority of the office yet. Well, Naruto, when he hears all this commotion between Boruto and Himawari, he suddenly takes off running, believing that something has happened to his babies and that his children, they might be in danger. That's where Naruto locks his eyes on his youngest daughter, Himawari, who now has her Byakugan activated, and she famously rushes towards Naruto. She speed blitzes Naruto. She knocks him unconscious, and what at the time a lot of people wrote off as being a gag scene, but there were signs in that moment that we were seeing something much larger at play than just a cute funny scene of Naruto's daughter knocking him out. When Hinata checked on Naruto, she was startled because all of Naruto's chakra points, they were shut off in this moment, and it made Hinata raise an eyebrow, because typically this is only something that a true high-level master of the Byakugan could accomplish, and even then, even the most skilled Byakugan user, they cannot do what Himawari did, which is just shut down all of Naruto's chakra points simultaneously. But most importantly, she also shut off access to Kurama and knocked out Kurama with the attack as well. That's a lot of damage for one hit to the sternum. For reference, this isn't like when Neji, where he sequentially went down and he shut down all of Naruto's chakra points to the chakra pathway system, and then Naruto was still able to borrow Kurama's chakra to get through the rest of the fight. In fact, this Kurama that she knocked out and shut off the access to for Naruto is significantly much more powerful than the Kurama that Naruto borrowed chakra from. And not just because that Kurama was locked up behind a cage, but this Kurama is Kurama with both halves of the Nine-Tails chakra that was sealed away into Naruto, which there are still some people of the belief that Naruto was not in possession of both halves of the Nine-Tail, which is a quick reminder as to what happened. Madara extracted the Yang Kurama from Naruto, the one that was sealed into him after he was born. Obito sealed the Yin Kurama that Minato had into Naruto. And following Kaguya's defeat, the yang half of Kurama agreed at the request of the Sage of Six Paths to put himself back inside of Naruto, pause, no Diddy, to serve as the gatekeeper to the Bijuu Sanctuary, where the 9 Bijuu Chakra was located for Naruto to access, for the Bijuu to have a meeting place to gather whenever Naruto asked Kurama to assemble the Bijuu. Himawari shutting off this much chakra with a single strike, it could only be done if there was something different about her, and Kurama being in fear of her afterwards just backs this up to the point where Kurama even has PTSD when it comes to Himawari. But let's shift ahead a little further into the timeline and let's look at an added line into the manga version of the versus Momoshiki arc, where Momoshiki looks over at Naruto and he says, "Hey Fox, it's such a pity that you're not going to be able to pass on that power to the next generation." A bit of foreshadowing for Baryon mode and Naruto eventually losing Kurama. But given the context of the scene, it came across more like he was looking at Naruto as in passing down that power to his son Boruto. The way that Kinshiki, the guardian of Momoshiki, was able to pass on his power to Momoshiki because it was clan law as far as their own transference of power. At the time, people, they found it odd because technically Naruto, he could pass on the power of the Nine Tails the way that Mito did when she selected the next Jinchuriki Kushina, or rather if Naruto even decided to select another Jinchuriki for Kurama when he was near the end of his life, he might let Kurama go out into the wild. But in hindsight, you could look at this and say, given the context of the relationships involved, Naruto being Boruto's father and Kinshiki being Momoshiki's guardian, with the former Boruto writer Ukyo Kodachi implying in the movie novelization that they had a father and son-esque relationship, even though Kinshiki obviously was not biologically Momoshiki's father. You could say that Momoshiki only saw the future because he wasn't looking at Himawari when he made that statement, which it makes it more symbolic, but it serves as a proper transition to the next point we're going over, one that I think is strongly overlooked. So in the Naruto Pain and Child Age story, a light novel that Boruto Naruto Next Generations, the TV anime, partially adapted, there's a lot that was not shown. There was this super strong desire for Himawari to get herself a Kurama doll. And when you read the story, Himawari isn't just in a strong want for the Kurama doll because it's a special release only available for Parent and Child Day's holiday that they're celebrating. There are moments in that chapter where when you read it, Himawari, she comes off as very weirdly obsessed with that doll. And when Himawari gives one of her reasonings for why this doll is so special to her, she replies it's because of the fact that the Kurama doll, it can be cared for like a baby, and that it is a baby doll, baby being stressed. Kurama scoffs at the idea of the mighty nine-tailed fox that was once feared as being a walking natural disaster would be viewed as a freaking baby doll for a little girl like Himawari, to the point where Kurama was even refusing to give Naruto chakra when Naruto's asking for it to catch a missing ninja. But given her obsessive attachment to the doll being a baby, and Kurama right now being a baby inside of Himawari, which is what she had originally wanted, a baby Kurama doll, even though she takes the doll of the One Tails after seeing how hard Naruto worked just to try and get her a Kurama doll as a consolation prize, she tells Naruto, "I'll take the Shikaku doll," though it's also because of the time that Naruto spent with her, because that's the most amount of time that she spent with her father in a very long time. So not getting the Kurama doll didn't matter as much, but she was very much disappointed she didn't get the doll initially. It's only a small bit of symbolic connective tissue, and it makes you wonder, and I want to go a bit further here on this next point. So one of the driving points of the Naruto Parent and Child Age story, that all the chapters, especially the ones that were not adapted into the anime, that they drove home so strongly, was the desire and the bonds of parents and children, what they are, and how parents, in particular parents of shinobi children, they strive for things to pass down to their kids. This was initially done back in the day by teaching a child a hidden jutsu. So say the Akamichi clan, the Nar clan, the Yamanaka clan, passing down the mechanics of the expansion jutsu, the shadow possession jutsu, the mind transfer jutsu, and the mind transmission jutsu for each respective clan. But you had others like the Hyuga clan who passed on their clan's Kekkei Genkai via genetics, you're just born with it, or the Uchiha clan who did the same with the Sharingan. Or you had a parent like Kakashi's father who passed down his Tanto to Kakashi, since the Hadake clan outside of Kakashi and Sakumo the White Fang, they were a no-name clan one that didn't have two pennies worth to rub together or pass down in terms of any family heirloom or family jutsu or anything of that nature. Nobody gave a damn about the Hadake clan. Naruto's daughter had already been passed down something very special via her mother, Hinata. She inherited Hinata's Byakugan through her genetics, but Naruto, at that point in the story, he didn't have anything to pass down to his daughter yet. He was never taught any of the Uzumaki clan's hidden jutsu, in particular the sealing chains that Kushina had and that Karin Uzumaki was able to perform using, albeit Naruto was able to use them through Kushina's chakra when he attempted to tame the Nine Tails, but it isn't a hidden jutsu that Naruto was ever taught because there was nobody who ever taught him how to use those chains. And as the fourth Naruto databook tells us, this is not a Kekkei Genkai. This is a hidden jutsu. He couldn't teach his daughter the Rasengan, the jutsu that Minato created, because Himawari showed no signs of wanting to be a shinobi, so it was pointless to try and teach her the jutsu. The only thing he could try and give her was a Kurama doll, something Naruto struggled to get for a baby Kurama doll. And fast forward 3 years later in the timeline, after Naruto loses big boy Kurama, Himawari finally has her baby Kurama. Not the way that she wanted, but she has it nonetheless. The other small symbolic sign that Himawari was going to be destined to have Kurama, it comes from some rather interesting lines in the Boruto Naruto Next Generation's anime, where we can contrast what was said about Boruto and Himawari by other characters in a great example of Show versus Tell. So, longtime viewers of the channel, if you've been with me since the Kryptonian Saiyan days, you guys have heard me say that great writers, truly great writers, even mangaka, they know the difference between show versus tell, and it's more than just a basic example that you get in Battle Shonen. Since this is a Battle Shonen, we'll use that. So you'll have like a narrator say that this character is stronger, or they'll display what their power level is. The story is using tell at that point. Now, if the story was using the show element of writing, then it would show us via the feats of them fighting other characters who have a pre-established level of power, and we would gauge accordingly based off of what was displayed. Well, we have another method to showing that isn't through the narrative establishing actions like we just went over, but instead it is through verbal comparison that other characters use to provide the audience with more information about a character, which for the aspiring writers, I know that some of you guys on the channel are via the DMs I get on social media, including a few of my patrons who are aspiring writers. A great way to add layers to a character is to describe through a different vehicle other than the narrator, or using the concept of free indirect discourse, which is where you convey a character's internal thoughts by slipping them in the narration of the story instead of having it directly have a line where a character is written in a ABC cookie cutter way of writing, such as saying the following: what am I gonna do in this situation? He's much stronger than me, the main character thought. Whereas like with free indirect discourse, you'll have the character thinking, basically coming to themselves like, character A wondered why the main character was so much stronger than him. That's just one example of how, again, the narrative can shift the point from being outside the character via like a narrator or spoken statements to being more inside the character's consciousness, rendering their thoughts and feelings directly without using inverted commas. I bring all this up because I've seen like a few comments whenever I start explaining some of the character stuff and some of the literature aspects. A lot of people say, why are you talking about that? I want to just focus on what's happening in the story. But what you're missing is that like Naruto and Boruto and quite a few other shonen, they're very character driven stories. They're not plot driven. And this is just one example with free indirect discourse, but there are other ways that you utilize this, and it's happened with Himawari. So for example, a skilled writer is able to use other characters to talk about another character to give another perspective to the reader that they haven't gotten up until that point in the story. A classic example being how Boruto's like he's consistently being compared to Minato by various characters, and then when you look at Himawari, one of the characters who compared her to Naruto was Iruka, and it was Iruka talking about how being around Himawari for his first time, she had elements that strongly reminded him of Naruto. And that is important to note because Iruka's first interaction with Naruto in the chronological sense of the story is in chapter 1 of Naruto, where Iruka is struggling with Naruto being a Jinchuriki. However, let's take things just a little bit further. In the chapter where Damon declares that Himawari has a monster power inside of her, right before he senses said power, Boruto is written as making a point to say that Damon, he wouldn't be talking so tough if he ever met Boruto's dad, Naruto. And who is the person who made Damon suddenly stop talking so tough to Boruto? It was him sensing the monster power inside of Himawari, which is, we now know that was Kurama's chakra the entire time. The narrative had already put the subconscious bug into our ears to associate Naruto's power to Damon in terms of him being a challenge, and the person who he ended up sensing, it was Naruto's daughter. And Damon had this battle craze insistence that Boruto was wrong about there being nothing special about his sister. This was probably our biggest clue yet that something happened with Himawari and that she was super strong, but she didn't know it just yet. The next sign that we have is the fact that in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, Himawari, she's shown having grown quite a bit in terms of combat skill despite only recently training, according to the manga, to become a shinobi, versus the others in her generation, in particular the members like Team 10, who despite only being 2 years older than Himawari, they were getting trained by their parents to be shinobi from the moment that these kids could walk, much like the rest of Boruto's classmates were, so the older characters in Himawari's generation. Chocho referred to Himawari's attacks as being heavy, a wording that has oftentimes been used to discuss power. One of the first things that Naruto says when he takes a hit from Jigen is, oh my god, his hits, they're so heavy. But with someone still learning how to draw out their power, what feels like it might be heavy today to Chocho might very well be feeling like a meteor crushing her in the future when Himawari learns to draw out the power of the Nine Tails, particularly if you're of the belief that some of the chakra inside Himawari is the equivalent in that it's the Byakugan chakra, which Kurama has been reborn as a small fox instead of being a larger body like we see when Bijuu are normally reborn. And that might add more credence as to why her chakra fascinated Damon so much, since Naruto, even if he would have still had Kurama, wouldn't have gotten Damon that excited to fight because Damon had just whooped Code's ass, and Code without limiters was stronger than Naruto even if he had Kurama. And it would explain why Jura did sense the chakra so strongly in another dimension, despite Kurama actively trying to hide his chakra. But I'll be discussing whether or not I buy into that line of thinking in another video later this week, likely at the top of the month, since we are going to start switching to more Naruto based topics, since the first half of the month is where we switch back and forth between Boruto on one day and Naruto on the other day. Over on the right side of the screen, you should be seeing the Kurama revival video that I talked about at the beginning of this video, and over on the left you should be seeing my Black Clover chapters 370 and 371 joint review, which if my editor hasn't finished the review by the time I upload this video, I'll update the link when he does.